Hi, my name is Jason.
And I'm Kaylin.
Welcome to What's Your Problem, where we discuss current issues in distance learning and education. Well, here we are at the end of Season 2. You may have noticed that at the end of each episode, we invite our viewers to submit ideas for future episodes. Well, suggestions have been pouring in. Therefore, to close out Season 2, we're excited to premiere our very first viewer response episode. Our own Michelle Randall is here to kick things off. Michelle is a full-time accounting instructor, and she's here to present a problem that I think many others will find interesting.
Hi guys, I've got a problem. When I'm in the classroom, it's easier to get students to have an organic discussion about a relevant topic at the moment. When I'm online, I struggle to get students to participate, to provide meaningful posts to one another and share their thoughts. Do you guys have any ideas?
Thanks, Michelle. You're absolutely right. There is a big difference between engaging students in a synchronous, face-to-face discussion and facilitating the sharing of opinions and ideas between students who are participating asynchronously from a distance. In the traditional classroom, you can read your students' body language. You can have the advantage of hearing the tone of their responses. You can easily see students who may be disengaged and pull them into the conversation, or notice a student who seems to be sitting on a good idea but is maybe too shy to share it. All of this information can help you keep your students on track and guide the discussion to its intended conclusion. In an online discussion, you don't necessarily have all of these advantages. However, there are still plenty of strategies for framing, facilitating, and summarizing an online discussion to ensure that your students are active, engaged, and most importantly, learning from their interactions. Kaylin and Jason will cover a few of these strategies for you in this episode.
Thanks, Adam. The first solution we have for this problem is to make sure you are providing quality discussion prompts for students to answer. These prompts should pose open-ended questions for students to participate in elaborately, so there is diversity between student answers. This way, students will want to read each other's posts and discuss their differing or concurring perspectives. Keep in mind the prompts you provide do not need to have a specific correct answer. It's okay to have students discuss opposing and differing perspectives on a topic, with not one being the correct one. A quick tip is to read your prompts before you set them up in your course. Ask yourself, how would you respond to this question? How do you think someone else with a different opinion might respond? If you struggle to develop a good response, how can you expect students to?
That's right, Kaylin. Sure, the number one order of business should be quality prompts, but sometimes even the most excellent topics can be flat in an online discussion. That's where our second solution comes in. Set up clear, deliberate directions for posts and responses. Even Jennifer Aniston in the incomparable film Office Space could tell you that if you want 37 pieces of flair, but you only require 15, you're getting 15 pieces of flair. In other words, if you expect more than you require, you're likely to be disappointed. Therefore, it's best to have appropriate and realistic expectations for your discussions, communicated clearly up front. Students should have clear directions for their initial post, along with guidelines and expectations for their responses to others. Clear guidelines for student posts and responses will help make your asynchronous discussions more meaningful and robust. However, there are also some things you can do within the discussions to help things along. Consider posting some follow-up announcements during the discussion period to remind students to participate and redirect or breathe new life into a discussion. You could also share a few really insightful posts by students in your class as a way to reinforce activity and give some positive recognition to students. Of course, you should anticipate and prepare for students who make poor choices by posting and communicating a clear netiquette policy that details appropriate behavior in online forums.
Our last solution to this problem is for instructors to get involved in the discussion. Just because you are prompting students to respond for a grade doesn't mean you can't join in and interact with your students. We just caution you to find a good median of interaction. Don't be overly involved to the point where students are expecting you to comment, so they post to you specifically, but not so absent that students don't know if you are even paying attention to their posts. One faculty member proposed their process of commenting on 4 students' posts each week, and to keep track of who you're commenting on, go through your roster list in alphabetical order, starting at the top again once you reach the end. Not only will you get to know your students better and be involved in the lively discussions, students will be more engaged when they see their instructor interacting as well.
So as a quick recap, online forums are different than traditional face-to-face discussions we are used to. However, it's definitely still possible to facilitate engaging and productive discussions in the distance learning modalities. How do we do that? First, by designing quality discussion prompts that will elicit the types of responses you want from your students. Second, by clearly communicating to students how and when they are expected to participate. And finally, carefully considering what your level of involvement should be. Too much and you might stifle the discussion. Too little and your students may lack the guidance they need to be successful.
What's Your Problem wants to hear from you. If you have an idea you'd like us to discuss in a future episode, or if you just want to drop us a line, send us an email or follow us on Twitter.
Thanks for a great season. We'll be back in the fall with more episodes. In the meantime, make sure to catch up on all of our episodes at the What's Your Problem YouTube channel. Have a great summer.
What's your problem? What's your problem? I don't get what your problem is.
Welcome to Schoolcraft. Welcome to college.